watching Access LaPorte County Channel 97. Coming up next is the March 10th meeting for the Michigan City Board of Zoning Appeals. You can find more information for this meeting by visiting www.accesslaportecounty.org.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Michigan City Board of Zoning and Appeals. The date is March 10th, 2026. It is 6 p.m. We're calling the meeting to order. And actually, if we could all rise for the pledge, please.
Allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Dr. Edwards, if you could start us with the roll call, please.
Of course, sir. Ricky Jackson,
Here.
Carol Spreitzer, Brian Gross, Kathy Stransky, here, Fred Klinder.
Here.
So we do have a quorum. We're just short one. Next on the agenda is the approval of minutes. If everyone's had a chance to look at the minutes, if there's no corrections or if there's corrections, we're looking for a motion.
If Mr. Hale has no corrections to the minutes, I'll move that we accept them as written.
Second.
So I have a motion by Mr. Klinder, a second by Ms. Stransky. Dr. Edwards, if you would do the roll, please.
Ricky Jackson,
Yes.
Fred Klinder,
Yes.
Kathy Stransky,
Yes.
Carol Spreitzer,
Yes.
and Brian Gross.
All right. We have approval of minutes. And if we can move into our first petition, please, Doctor.
First petition of this evening is B-101-25 Big Red LLC and Crew Car Wash.
Is there someone here to speak on that? Welcome back, Mr. Willoughby.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the BZA. I'm happy to be back and happy to not ask for a continuance, and we're ready to roll. And tonight with me, I'm Christopher Willoughby, Brady Nelson and Janes, here on behalf of the petitioner, Crew Car Wash, and who is the contract purchaser from Big Red LLC for property located at 3353 Franklin Street, also known as the former Red Lobster. Tonight, I also have with me Travis Smith, who is a representative of Crew Car Wash, and Nick Schultz from Henley Corn. I'm always Kinley Corn. I'm always getting it backwards. Who will be here to answer some specific questions that you might have with regard to the company, the plans, as well as more technical questions. So with that, the property is, and I don't know at what time it might be appropriate, but I believe that notice is appropriate, and we've submitted what we believe to be complete documentation required. But I will defer whenever that comes up. I just want to make that representation. So property is zoned B2. Under the code, section 702, it lists the uses that are permissible in the B2 zoning district. And one of those uses that is permissible is a car wash subject to special exception use approval. So there's a nuance there, but it is an allowable use provided that we establish, and the burden is on us to establish that we've met the requirements of the code that allows your approval of the special exception as well as the use regulations that are. So that is in section 2405, and then section 1405B lists some more specific use regulations for car washes. With that said, we've spent countless hours preparing. Graciously, Dr. Edwards, various department heads at her direction and coordination have supplied traffic studies, site plans, plans for signage. Most recently, in last month, I believe we've submitted everything that needed to be, and we understand that there's been a determination that there's a sufficient amount of capacity with and through the sanitary district, which is important, particularly with the car wash and that side of town and how congested. So with that, we believe that we've met the requirements for the various department heads, and would like to point out, and I'll defer, I imagine you might have some questions, but we believe our traffic study establishes that, there is not going to be any material increase of traffic that will cause any danger, that will add to anything other than there. And in fact, the B2 business zoning section anticipates that there will be high traffic and various uses and properties exactly like the one on which the Big Red property sits, that each of those properties make use of a common area. So with that said, the clients are investing a significant amount of money in this property, and they are known to be a family-owned business, family-owned since 1948. They put a high focus and emphasis on family, their employees. They provide tuition assistance and very, very competitive salaries, and are environmentally conscious and community friendly. And I mean, they have a number of awards as well as recognition from communities in terms of their involvement, and that is something that they're committed to. And all of those go to the different criteria that they must establish. You should have, and we submitted a copy, an assessment from a commercial real estate professional who found that there is no evidence that there would be any negative impact to values. And in fact, this business and the synergies with what's there and the developments that are in and around that area will actually help others thrive as well. This facility is in the range of $6+ million when all told. And I don't want to steal any thunder from the engineer, but as you'll see, he's way more intelligent than I. The quality of building that they build and the build to last. I believe he said from day one and year 5, you're going to see a quality facilities there that looks and fits and what should be anticipated on that side of town. If we go back to the B2 zoning district, one of the things that is supposed to be discouraged is random strip malls. Well, when I'm from here, like you, when I drive there, and it's no slight against any of those owners, that is what's there. So this is a different, I've heard many times, we don't need another car wash. That isn't one of the criteria that we're up against, right? It is not. So I want to be clear on that. The criteria are very clear, and I'll sum up again and address some of those. And I want to yield the floor because I know others will have plenty to say. But with that, we believe that we have established, based on our submittals, all of which are the record, our testimony this evening, and as well as additional information that we intend to provide with anticipated, in response to anticipated questions, that we respectfully request that you grant this special exception and allow us to take the additional steps to construct and move forward with this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Willoughby. Board members, was there any questions for the engineer or for Mr. Willoughby while we're... Okay, then we're going to move on to the department's report.
Regarding this petition, regarding the general welfare, the proposal will not be injurious to the public health, safety, and general welfare of the community. The proposed car wash will increase traffic levels at the intersection of Franklin and Lake Park Plaza entrance. The sanitary district has reviewed this petition and drafted a report. That includes comments and conditions regarding the approval. We'll discuss conditions 2 and 3 that are necessary to meet the standard of the city code. Regarding surrounding property, the special exception use will not be injurious to the use and enjoyment of other property within the immediate vicinity of the purpose that is already permitted, nor will it substantially diminish or impair property values within the neighborhood. The establishment of the special exception use will not impede the normal or orderly development and improvement of the surrounding property for uses that are permitted within the district. The only proposed route of egress for consumers using the vacuums is through the surrounding parking lot to the west. A cross-access easement allows individuals who are included in the easement to cross or traverse someone else's property. It provides a clear pathway for ingress and egress, and the cross-access reduces traffic on roadways and prevents conflicts between entering, exiting, and through traffic. So a cross-access easement should be included all around the surrounding properties and will be included in the proposed conditions. Condition 1 is necessary to meet the standard of the city code. Regarding the hazard, the special exception use shall not be hazardous to adjacent property or involve uses, activities, materials, or equipment which will be detrimental to the health, safety, or welfare of persons or property through the excessive production of traffic or noise, smoke or odor or fumes. The site plan has been reviewed by the department with a focus specifically on site circulation. Ingress and egress points have been highlighted as a concern for the site as it does have an impact on surrounding businesses. Employee parking is included by the stacking stations. There's no exit option that's provided for potential customers who decide to exit the stacking stations. And additionally, another hazard was identified via the exit of the car wash tunnel where cars exiting will share the same access points as cars entering the stacking stations. Conditions 4, 5, 6, and 7 are necessary to meet the standard of the city code. Regarding public facilities and services, the use will be served adequately by essential public services and facilities such as highways, streets, police, fire protection, drainage structures, etc. Adequate measures have been or will be taken to provide ingress and egress accesses designed to minimize traffic congestion in public streets. The water department has confirmed that this proposed development has sufficient capacity to provide the required water volume, and the sanitary district has confirmed that sufficient capacity also exists to support the proposed development. We also have this evening District Engineer Al Wallace here to share additional feedback regarding some of the capacity regarding this proposed development. Regarding development standards, the development of the property will be consistent with the intent of the development requirements established by this ordinance for similar uses. The development will be designed, constructed, operated, and maintained to be compatible with and not significantly alter the existing or intended character of the general vicinity based upon the city comprehensive land development plan. Regarding ordinance intent, granting the special exception use will not be contrary to the general purposes that are served by this ordinance and will not permanently injure other property or uses in the same zoning district and vicinity. The petitioner is requesting, again, a special exception use, which is permitted unless these standards are not met. These standards will be met if conditions are adopted. Regarding the comprehensive plan, the requested special exception use is consistent with the current zoning district for this location. Although the land use characteristics of the surrounding properties are similar, we do still recommend a consistent and traditional commercial use that mirrors previous operations rather than the requested special exception use. Regarding use regulations, under Section 1405 for motor vehicle dealers and service, for automobile wash and whatnot, development must conform with the city code regarding its use in Article 14, and all requirements have been met. Regarding our recommendation, the Planning Department recommends approval of the requested special exception use, subject to compliance with all conditions recommended by our department and the sanitary department, to allow the petitioner to construct the proposed development. Regarding conditions, Execution of a revised cross-access easement to allow the proposed west access/egress driveways to and from this particular access point, as well as the placement of improvements within off-site parking areas in accordance with the approved site plan. The site plan shall be approved by the enforcement officer, and the easement shall be recorded and executed by the petitioner prior to the car wash opening for business. Display for condition number 2. Displaying appropriate two-way signage to decrease potential head-on collisions. For condition 3, signage that clearly marks traffic navigation that includes areas that should not be accessed to avoid potential collisions. Condition 4, limit site to 3 stacking stations, thus providing access to vehicles to exit without going through the car wash. For condition 5, provide safe routes and signage for staff to navigate in and out of the site that doesn't impact flow of traffic, car wash operations, or other activities on the site. For this condition, the department recommends parking that is not adjacent to the building, thus prompting an updated cross-access easement agreement that allows for staff parking in neighboring parking lot. Condition 6, provide safe routes for customers and stacking stations who choose not to go through the car wash tunnel. Condition 7, special use exception approval is also contingent upon NDOT permit approval as it pertains to infrastructure upgrades. Condition 8, as soon as practical, but in all cases prior to opening the business, the petitioner shall also address all the matters contained in the memorandum that was provided by Al Wallace, the district engineer for the sanitary district. Engineer Wallace, would you like to expand on some of the information that you also provided the developer? And for the last condition, condition 9, also as soon as practical, but in all cases prior to opening the business, the petitioner shall also again address all matters contained in the memorandum that was provided by District Engineer Al Wallace. Mr. Wallace?
Mr. Wallace, if you would give us your name and the address of.
Sure. My name's Al Wallace. I'm the district engineer for the Sanitary District of Michigan City, located at 1100 East 8th Street.
Mr.
Michigan
Wallace, thank you very much for coming tonight. Nobody wants to see a bunch of white soap suds going down Franklin Street.
Correct. Neither do we. So for this particular project, we looked at the current use of a restaurant there with a proposal to change to a car wash facility. So looking at the discharge from the restaurant to a car wash, there will be an increase into our sanitary sewer. In terms of the specifics regarding this project, there's a municipal public sanitary sewer on the east side of Franklin Street. From Meyer Drive, that 12-inch sewer runs about a mile north to Alfred Street. At Alfred, the sewer then discharges into a 15-inch sewer, which then has a larger capacity. So our main focus with the discharge flows we were provided by the developer was looking at the 12-inch line on Franklin Street. The district owns a small number of ultrasonic area velocity flow meters. So we put a flow meter into the line so we could actually measure the flows going through that 12-inch line. The flow meter was put in just south of Alfred, so we're kind of collecting all of the flow that's contributing to that line so we can compare existing conditions to what potential conditions might exist were the car wash to be approved and put in service. So based on our flow meter monitoring, the flow through that 12-inch line kind of varies between a low range, less than 100,000 gallons per day, to a high range of somewhere between 200 and 300,000 gallons per day. So we've established kind of what the baseline flow was right now. So the second part of that analysis was to see, based on how that sewer was constructed, what is the maximum designed flow that we can put through that sewer. And those calculations determined that the design capacity of the most restrictive segment of that sewer was in the order of 840,000 gallons per day. So with our current maximum flow around 250,000 gallons per day compared to our maximum, we're at about 30% capacity. So sufficient capacity to allow for increased uses to a certain extent. So then we looked at the discharge from the crew car wash proposal. That was 17,339 gallons per day. So we would basically be going from about a 30% capacity to a 32% capacity, a 2% increase in flow, so very negligible. So we do have the capacity, and I documented that in correspondence to Dr. Edwards. So the second component we looked at with regard to sanitary sewer is the proposed facility is on the west side of Franklin Street, and our sanitary sewer is on the east side of Franklin Street. So the current building has a 6-inch diameter PVC pipe from the west side of the street to the east side. So working with the engineers at Kimley Horn, we asked for some calculations on the capacity of that 6-inch lateral. While we don't have exact survey data, if that pipe were installed within the design survey range of 6-inch laterals, the calculations show that 6-inch should have the capacity to adequately drain all the discharge from the car wash. However, we did include a condition, if this were to be approved, that actual survey gets done of that 6-inch line and the calculations be resubmitted to confirm that the 6-inch line does in fact have enough capacity. That condition also states that if that evaluation determines the 6-inch cannot handle the capacity, then the developer at their cost would have to remedy that situation. There's a couple different ways to do that. They would most likely have to increase the size of that lateral from 6-inch to 8-inch pipe. They could either work with NDOT to bore a new 8-inch pipe across underneath the street, or they can use other construction methods such as pipe bursting to burst the 6-inch pipe going across and pull a 8-inch pipe behind it. So in our my judgment as district engineer, I do not see that as a very difficult condition to be able to meet. It appears the 6-inch is adequate. If it's not adequate, then the developer would just have to make provisions to put in a bigger pipe. So from a sewer capacity point of view, Franklin Street sewer is fine. We can accept the additional flow. The only kind of remaining question there in condition 1 of our report is double check the capacity of the 6-inch lateral. If the calculations show it works, then that will satisfy the condition. If calculations show it does not work, then they'll need to remedy that with some type of small construction project. The other items that we looked at with regard to the development were some of the stormwater drainage. The area as presently configured is nearly 100% impervious, and with the modifications of the proposal, it looks like there may be slightly less impervious surface with the new design. So for condition 2, we're just requesting the owner submit calculations identifying the specific change in impervious. If it stayed the same or decreased, then reuse of the existing storm drainage components would be acceptable.
Excuse me, Al,
Yes.
who's impervia?
Oh, impervious, it's the hard asphalt. So that's asphalt versus grass or vegetated areas. So I apologize, it's a technical term engineers use too often without explanation. And the importance of that is, since most of that area is paved asphalt, when it rains, then all the stormwater runoff has to go somewhere. There's existing infrastructure on that site. There's a drainage swale at the north end of the property. There are storm sewers already in the parking lot with catch basins that convey that storm sewer drainage to the north. So the infrastructure is already there. So just to make sure we don't overburden that existing infrastructure, condition 2, we just want the owner to confirm if they're going to have less asphalt when they're done constructing. If it turns out they will have more asphalt and more runoff, then they'll have to do calculations to show how they're going to provide additional on-site storage. We do not believe that to be the case, but we just want to double check and include that condition. And then lastly, since there's existing storm infrastructure there, it's been there for many years, as part of the construction project, We have two conditions, conditions 4 and 5, requesting that the owner clean that infrastructure out, clean the catch basins, clean the storm sewers, and then clean the vegetation out of the north ditch, just to make sure that the storm drainage system can get back to the original conditions when it was built. So in just a quick summary, we've looked at sanitary sewer capacities. We're fine there. There's a small question on the 6-inch lateral that can be addressed once we get survey data. And from a storm point of view, we just have, we don't see these conditions as being difficult or onerous to meet. But in doing our due diligence, we felt it was important to codify those in a potential approval tonight.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Wallace.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
Mr. Wallace, you submitted a memorandum regarding these matters, the flow and the discharge of water. But on a month earlier, on March 6th, you submitted an earlier memorandum that had a couple of other suggestions. And those have been included in the conditions that the planning department is recommending. You're familiar with that? One of them was installing an oil, grease, and grit interception system and so forth.
Yes, those are typical items that we go through when the official sanitary sewer permit application comes through. Kimberly Horns already submitted some of that information to us, and it kind of speaks to what we do from permit review to look at the grid separators and other things. So they have provided that information to us, and that's in line with industry standards.
So these matters too are suitable for inclusion as a condition to meet the sanitary district's requirements.
Yeah, I think probably the appropriate condition, those conditions which speak to getting approval of the sanitary sewer connection permit, yes. Which is routine we do for any non-residential use that comes to the city.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Wallace? No? Thank you, sir. Mr. Hale, we could go into your report, please.
Yes, sir. My report is for petition number B-101-25. The petitioner applicant is Crew Car Wash. The property owner is Big Red LLC. The request is for special exception use for property located at 4353 Franklin Street here in Michigan City. Initially, I would point out that I've had an opportunity earlier, a few days earlier, to review the notice documentation supplied by the petitioner. I find all of that documentation adequate, that meets our requirements, as Mr. Willoughby pointed out, and you're free to go ahead and consider this matter this evening. Next, I would just note that I've included as part of my report a long series, A to T, of documentation that has been submitted by the petitioner that is part of the record. And I just note that so that we'll understand and future generations will understand, if they have reason to look at this document, what it was that we looked at when we considered it. Also included in the record would be the planning department report, Mr. Wallace's oral presentation, Mr. Willoughby's oral presentation, and the report of your staff. As indicated, the petitioner is requesting approval to allow for the operation of a car wash in a B2 general commercial district. Mr. Willoughby very adequately explained how we got here. That is, in our zoning ordinance, we have a table of uses, permitted, not permitted, and third category, conditional exception use. So conditional exception uses are permitted if they meet certain standards, as was pointed out. And so we have to look at those standards in section 1405 of our zoning ordinance, and those have been met according to the planning department report. The appropriate standards to be considered were included in Dr. Edwards' report. She went through them and listed her proposed findings, because any motion to approve or deny the petition will require that there be findings. And so we will want to consider both the petitioner's findings. The petitioner submitted his own finding, and we'll want to consider the planning department findings, and we'll want to consider your own. Finally, I have another comment to make, but I would also note that under our zoning ordinance, you may approve this request if you make the findings that are consistent with the requirements of section 2405. Those are the ones that Dr. Edwards mentioned, and section 1405B. Those are required to allow for a car wash, but your department has indicated that those have all been met. Or you may approve the request with findings, but subject to certain conditions. I mention this because, as you just heard, there are several conditions that your planning department has recommended. Any motion to approve must include a reference to findings, and if you want to add conditions, you also must include in your motion your findings. Same would be true in a motion to deny. You also have the authority to deny this request or this petition, or finally to continue it. I just want to point out that there was mention of a cross easement. I believe the existing cross easement dates back to 1991. I had an opportunity to review that. We requested that the petitioner update that to meet the things that we thought would be required. And so I drafted something. I sent it to Mr. Willoughby. He's made some correction or some modest changes that don't affect anything that is important to us legally. And so I want you to be aware of the fact that there is a new amendment to that cross easement that will be put in place following approval, or will not be put in place if it's denied. So that's why we want to hold off on that new change to the cross easement. But Dr. Edwards mentioned that that's important in her conditions, and so I want you to know that it's been reviewed and it is appropriate. Thank you. That's all I have.
All right, we'll move into the public comment part of it. Public comment.
Yes, this is Tommy Kolavic from 1316 Ohio Street. I remember that one all. It was 1989 when Lake Park Plaza all went in. I remember that was the original site of the Walmart. They were there on a 20-year lease. When that lease ran out, that's when they built their new facility and opened in 2009. So you were talking about infrastructure that is roughly 40 years old. It doesn't matter if we get another car wash. We have multiple gas stations. We have multiple hotels. We have multiple chicken places. And, we got 3 McDonald's locations. I guess one thing I start. Well, I know I don't get to the question I answered, but here's the question I'd be sitting there. I said, has there been a purchase agreement made here? I said, when's the closing date going to be? How much earnest money do they put down? I know this wasn't mentioned in the planning director's or the attorney's report, but I looked out here on the beacon, and the current owner, Big Red LLC, is $28,278.98 delinquent paying their property taxes. Where we might have another situation here we had with 100 Washington, where with redevelopment commission, where the developer wanted to put in condos at the old train station over here. It all fell through because the developer never owned the property in the first place. So, now it's tied up in a lot. And recently, that was been sold at a sheriff's sale for like $1.2 million. So, I really, the way you need to go with this is you might want to table this indefinitely until the petitioner takes ownership of the property, so we can move forward with this. But that's all my comments. Thanks.
Thank you. Public comment? Your name and address for the records, please.
Kyle Sonity, 701 Carla Ann Drive. I just want to say good morning or good evening to the board. I'm a longtime Crew Car Wash member, and I got the Ultimate 360 package. It's fantastic. I am totally in favor of this because when I spend my weekend and part of my job or my tasks are to get my car washed, I do not want to drive to Valparaiso to get that to happen. I'd like to keep my business here in Michigan City. As far as all the other considerations of the property, and it's an excellent facility. They keep very good care of all of their stuff they do, and I don't see any issues with all of the easements and everything for traffic and backing up. I think that it'll be a fantastic addition.
Very good. Thank you. Public comment? I was going to say, you better come up to that microphone.
No. Scott Mellon, 200 Kenwood Place. As many of you know, I've been tracking this for over 6 months, and I've been to 5 or 6 of these meetings. And I've made some of these comments in the past, and I'll be repeating them tonight because this is the money shot. Based on some of the things that were said tonight, though, I'm going to point out a few things. Once again, there are no exhibits for the public to examine. It is hard to know what we are talking about if there are no exhibits for the people to review. I really think that should be changed in your required materials. The public should be able to see what is being talked about. Although we can't say no to a development because we have other similars, we can say that Michigan City is well served by car washes, and we don't have a pressing need for another one. Michigan City deserves better than a car wash on our main drag, and we can do better. I've said before, we can find a location that doesn't need a variance. We have other commercial properties in this town. As I said a month ago, there's currently an existing car wash for sale a little further down the road on Franklin. It's very clear that this can be denied by this board. And I'll read those reasons later. I am disturbed that the planning report from the planning department, the majority of the conditions were traffic flow signs within their parking lot. I don't understand why that is a big priority. And it's certainly not conditions to approve it. The flow of traffic in their lot, I had 4, 5, or 6 separate conditions. On that sewer study, did we account for, there's another already approved major $10 million investment car wash that's been approved on that same segment that leads into the Alfred connector. Have we accounted for that car wash that's already been approved on that same restricted line? Furthermore, the Economic Development Corporation of Michigan City has made a formal recommendation to your board that this is not, they don't recommend this as a development. I don't know if you've reviewed that in your materials yet. Now, here's the legal reason why you can say no. According to your own rules, section 28.11 variance, the BZA may deny variances for the following reasons. As I've said before, 28.11A, number 3, the need for the variance arises from some condition peculiar to the property involved. And as I've said before, I have a professional background in real estate investment. That's how I've made my professional life. It's how I've paid for my life. There are no special conditions to that property. It's flat and level. Nothing special there. Number 4 of the same clause, the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will constitute an unnecessary hardship if applied to the property for which the variance is sought. Again, there are no conditions to that property that warrant any variances. It has been proven to be a successful retail establishment or restaurant for many decades. I personally feel that many people in Michigan City would frankly like to see another restaurant in that location. Furthermore, or additionally, 28.11 section B, number 3, the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property. There's nothing special here. It's a flat level lot. Nothing special. They don't need a variance. They need to go somewhere else, in my opinion. This is the front door to Michigan City. This is like Bozo's red nose, Rudolph's red nose. We can do better. We deserve better. I feel badly for the developers and the people involved. They make it sound wonderful, but I've got nothing against them. I've got a problem with it being there. And I think you have ample reason to deny this application, and I certainly hope that you do. Thank you.
Thank you. Public comment. Public comment. Your name and address for the records, please.
My name is Darren Alley. I'm from 5241 South Wozniak Road in Westville. I've worked here in Michigan City for the last 25 years. I run a small business here in Michigan City. I honestly would love to see a crew car wash come into the Red Lobster location. I think that they have a really, really nice aesthetic to them. I think that they brought the business when it moved into Valparaiso, really illuminated that area, made it look really nice. It looks to be very clean and well run. One of the things that I looked up earlier today is, you know, and I believe that we need sustainable businesses to move into Michigan City. Crew Facility has never shut down one of their locations, which I think is a huge deal. I think us allowing any business to move in is problematic when there's a highly likelihood that the business starts up and then a few years later closes down. And I don't think that that's very likely with Crew, considering they've never done it before. The other thing that that came to mind is I think that we need places for our young people to work other than fast food restaurants, other than restaurants in general. And I think that Crew Car Wash is a huge opportunity for our young people to come work with automation machinery. And I think it kind of opens up their eyes to possibilities in their future so that they can grow and expand their horizons other than just working in restaurants. So I would love to see a Crew Car Wash come to Michigan City.
Very good. Thank you. Public comment. Public comment. Last call for public comment. Public comment is now closed. Board members, discussion? Yes.
Yes, if I could I ask Mr. Wallace concerning the question concerning capacity flow to Alfred Street with the additional car wash? And why do they go all the way across Franklin Street down to Alfred Street to get the water? Oh, jeez.
The sewer dates back to pre-1960, so that's why that's been there on that side of Franklin Street there. Yes, we did look at the additional car wash on Franklin Street. Going over the numbers again really quickly, based on our flow meters, the current flow through that sewer is 30% of design. If we add the Crew Car Wash to that total, that takes it to 32% of the design. And if we add the additional car wash a little bit north on Franklin there, that will take us to 32.8% of the design. So we still have sufficient capacity, even with the 2 additional car washes.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Board members, any other discussion? Any other thought?
Well, yes, I do. Kathy Stransky, but I had 2 calls from residents of Michigan City to my home who did not want this car wash to go through. They were telling me that they Googled it and they found that we have 12 active car washes in Michigan City right now. And I promised them I'd bring it up. And they're worried about our city services between the car wash and what's going on with the NIPSCO, that it's going to be overwhelming for our town. That's all.
Mr. Hale, would you like to jump in?
If you've watched this body operate over the last many years, you know that I do not engage in intercepting or interrupting or getting involved in this process. But a couple of legal issues were raised, and I want to address those for the board's benefit. This petition was called during public comment a variance. It is not a variance. We have development standards variances and we have use variances, and we have a third animal. It's called a special exception use. And that is what our law requires the petitioner to ask for, and he has to meet the requirements that set out in our law relating to special exception uses. Those standards are different from the standards for variances, either development standard variances or use variances. Every one that was pointed out do not apply to special exception uses. So they are not something that you can consider. You have to remember that our job, this is a permitted use if certain requirements are met. That's where we start with a special exception use. So remember the report from Dr. Edwards that indicated that these are the standards that have to be met. And those are the ones you have to look at. You all have a copy of that. And so look at those and determine if those standards are met. You're free to agree with Dr. Edwards or not, and I hope you look at them with an independent mind. But that's what you have to look at. Not the standards. We have them in our statute. They're what was pointed out, but they don't apply to this situation.
Thank you.
Mr. Hale, for the record, was there any letters of remonstrance or?
I received none, but I never do. So I guess Dr. Edwards can answer that question.
The only one came from the Economic Development Corporation that was in previous packets that have already seen and reviewed along the way. So I think that's the only one that I would like to point out.
Okay. Any other comments from the board? Any other comments from the board? Fred? Nothing?
Hey, Mr. Dabney.
Liaison from the council.
Come on up to the microphone, please.
I don't have a vote, or I don't have to sit up there, so I don't know if I count. But the letter that was discussed by Dr. Edwards, I just wanted to take a chance to read it. Bryant Dabney, 405 Thomas Street, City Council at large member. The EDC does not support the special exception use variance for the proposed development of Crew Car Wash at 4353 Franklin Street, the former Red Lobster site. This location sits along one of our city's most active and visible commercial corridors and plays an important role in shaping the experience of both residents and tourists. Our concerns about the rezoning of this proposed development include proposed development. We devalue and diminish the usage of the commercial plaza due to increased traffic. 2 car washes located within less than a mile of each other of the proposed development already, making this additional redundant and offering a little added value. There is no true long-term business, tax, tourism, or employment value for the city of Michigan City. We are actively seeking development that contributes to the vitality of our city and enhances the overall experience of those who live, work, and travel here. A use that supports hospitality or retail would be better suited for this prime location, as both are in alignment with the City of Michigan City's broader vision for Franklin Street as a vibrant, welcoming destination for locals and visitors alike. Please recommend denial on the special exception use variance. Thank you. And this is from the Economic Development Corporation of Michigan City, EDCMC.
Thank you, Mr. Dabney.
Just so that everyone can hear me, apparently Mr. Gross has been online, but has not been used. His name is not visible, so I did not know that he was here to participate in the meeting. But I just wanted to let you guys know that if you would like me to promote him to be able to take part in the meeting, that I would like to be able to do that. But again, as you can see, he was using a different name other than his, so I had no way of knowing that it was him. But now that we have discovered, I will promote him so that he is able to participate.
Huh? Probably, he's probably at someone's house using their computer. Yeah. Or he didn't make it home in time. He's gonna use theirs.
Drew, just let us know when you're ready.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Good. Okay, I've been here for the whole meeting, haven't figured out how to get on, and no, it's not my laptop.
Okay.
Uh,
So do you have a comment or a motion or something that you're wanting on this? On
I
the
do
car wash?
couple of comments. The first is the existing and proposed car washes in that area are actually on the northbound lanes. So if you're southbound, you actually have to cross over Franklin to get to those car washes. By putting a car wash on the west side, which is southbound, you could actually have less cross traffic across Franklin. Also, people already shopping in that mall area don't have to cross Franklin to get their car washed. So I actually don't think the traffic is going to be as a big deal, simply because it may actually reduce it to some extent. The other thing, I see nothing in the plans for bicycle parking. You know, there should be at least 2 spaces for employee bicycle parking, depending on how many employees they have. And if you've got teenagers and people like that working there, you're probably going to need some bicycle parking. Thank you.
All right. So board members, we've had discussion. Unless you have more discussion, is there anyone who'd like to make a motion? Hang on,
Ricky?
hang on. What's that? Okay. Brian, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So in order for you to actually cast a vote tonight in any part of the meeting, you have to have your video on. Can you put a video on?
I can try.
Yeah.
I don't think that's true.
All right. Do you need to talk? All right. Well, we're waiting for Mr. Gross.
See me
Mr.
now?
Willoughby, do you have anything for us?
I do. Just as customary, just in summary, and to address a couple things, Mr. Hale addressed a very large one with regard to the distinction between use variances and special exceptions. I would like for this board to consider, much as you've a little bit heard Mr. Wallace. And before I go further, I actually want to commend and thank Mr. Wallace and Dr. Edwards. Mr. Wallace and his department really turned out a serious amount of work. So, and the willingness to work with my client is appreciated, regardless of whatever the decision is, that they really turned it over. So, with regard to contingencies and the conditions, you heard from Mr. Wallace, somewhat of a variable in some of the conditions, that if it were determined that you needed a bigger pipe, that after further research, then maybe. And so I would like to ask you to consider that if you were inclined to approve this, that you reconsider the 3 versus 4 lanes. And we believe, and I have Mr. Smith here that can address this lane issue, but rather than belabor the point, I would ask respectfully that you, if you're inclined to make that decision, to allow those 4 lanes, if it is demonstrated to the satisfaction of the department that there is the sufficient exit lane, because we believe that there is, and we believe that there's a disconnect. But if we're wrong, that condition would be 3 subject to that. And I don't see any harm in that. And I'm not trying to step on Dr. Edwards' toes, but there's at least a couple conditions that are in the alternative. So we would respectfully ask that you would amend that condition to allow approval upon sufficient showing that that 4-lane meets those obligations. I do want to point out to Mr. Mellon's point a little bit, and this will help you, hopefully, but I defer to your attorney of the case of Boffo versus Boone County BZA. And in that case, it distinguishes what the difference is between a use variance and a special exception. I won't belabor the point, as Mr. Hale did a stellar job in summarizing the main holding. And the next holding, though, that's important that I would like to put before you is the main difference between that use variance and special exception is after you determine that we've met the condition, and you've heard tonight that we have, it becomes that you must grant that, because it is a permitted use as long as we show that we've complied. So while we recognize that there is a certain sentiment, and the good part is people are going to be surprised if you approve this and when they see the final project. But back to the main point, once we check those boxes, we are entitled to that approval versus that use variance where there's more discretion. And again, I defer to your attorney, but I point out that case, which can be found at 421 Northeast 2nd, 1119, and it's an Indiana Court of Appeals case. So I use that as legal authority. To Mr. Kolavic's points, the good part about the closing is pending and contingent. As I had said, our client is the contract purchaser. It's subject to your approval of whether that deal finalizes. And as part of that deal, he'll see that the taxes get paid. There is bike parking. I know that Mr. Gross mentioned that. There is a provision on the site plan for bike parking. But again, community oriented, environmentally conscious. Even if it weren't, it'd be something that they would consider. I want to point out that there's no other variances that are being requested at this time. Everything is going to be done subject to the requirements of the state and city codes with regard to permitting, construction, and operation. Everything crew does is top notch, and you're going to see that. I also, and Mr. Smith was very proud and he wanted to make this point and I almost missed it. This location is one of their most desired and demanded locations. They can go lots of places, but this is a spot they want to be. They've fought very hard to be before you and ask for your consideration and your approval. So I want to emphasize that point that this location, they want to be here and they do provide long-term jobs. And I'd also like to point out, they're not asking for any tax breaks. They won't be asking for tax abatements on their equipment. They're here to make a significant investment, be a good member of the community, and support the community. Otherwise, do you need to speak on those lanes? Otherwise, I really appreciate the time, the consideration. I appreciate the consideration the departments have given us, as well as the questions, and I'm willing to answer any other questions you might have. Otherwise, I respectfully request that you approve this requested special exception use, with the only change being with the conditional approval of that 4-lane being allowable unless we cannot demonstrate through further discussions with the application and permitting process to Dr. Edwards and relevant departments that those are doable. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Willoughby.
Mr.
Hale,
Clarification, please.
please.
I don't want there to be any confusion about this. Another legal matter has just been brought up. The gist of what Mr. Willoughby said is very accurate. This is a permitted use if they, in his words, check the boxes. The boxes that have to be checked are found in section 2505 of our zoning ordinance. And those are the very things, 2405. Those are the very things that Dr. Edwards mentioned in her report, the standards that have to be met. Those boxes have to be met. And just because Dr. Edwards' report says one thing doesn't mean you have to take it as true. So that's where you have the discretion to make up your own mind if these standards have been met, or any one of them, because each one has to be met before there can be approval. So I hope you understand that. And if you don't, please ask a question because it's very basic about the process that we do here when we consider special exception uses, which are a little bit different animal than we usually see.
All right. Board members, are we ready for a motion? Is there anyone that'd like to make a motion?
I have a quick question or comment concerning your last statement about us reviewing the standards that the doctor has put forth to us and indicated that that's something that we should rely on and that we have the ability to say that's not true or we've.
Yes, you do. That's your job, actually. Your job is to consider those standards and determine if they've been met or not by the petitioner and his proposed project. That is precisely what you do. Dr. Edwards' report and her reference to those standards and her reasons for making the recommendation that you approve are just her thoughts about whether or not the petitioner has completed that job. But it's your job to decide, finally. So your job is to look at that, take in all the information, taking in the information that came from the public comment, that's very important, should be considered. Take in the information that Mr. Willoughby said, that's also very important. So everybody can voice an opinion and you have to sift through it all and make that determination if those standards have been met, each one. I'm sorry, the simple answer to your question was yes. You decide.
Board members, is there a motion?
Let me try. First of all, this is my crew car wash file. It's quite a bit for us to have gone through. The fact that it's family owned and the people that I know from Indy area and Belleville area have nothing but good things to say about Crew Car Wash. I highly regard Mr. Mellon's opinion concerning Michigan City and what we should be doing here. And that's got to be taken into consideration. But based on all of what I have heard tonight, I recommend that we approve petition B-101-25 based on and including the planning department report of 3/26 as was indicated tonight, the sanitation report by Mr. Wallace as was reported here this evening, and Attorney Hale's report to be included in this approval process. In reference to lane 3 or 4 alternative, I have to go with our planning department recommendation. And I ask that the bicycle parking be also included in this petition. Thank you.
Would you include in that motion that specifically you're adopting the findings included in Dr. Edwards' report?
Yes, include the findings as reported by Dr. Edwards in the report for the planning department.
Is your motion include all of the recommendations that the planning department put in?
Yes, as indicated in her report.
All the
Yes, yes,
conditions.
all the conditions. Yes, and conditions
Hale,
and recommendations.
Okay. Does those conditions need to be read in for record, or are we going to go with what we had passed for?
I think you've done an adequate job of explaining them. Dr. Edwards talked about them. I've talked about them.
Very good. So I have a motion by Mr. Klinder. Is there a second? I have a motion by Mr. Klinder. Is there a second?
I second, if you can see me.
Hang on. Brian, since we did not have you on video, Mr. Hale is telling me that you can't vote on this petition.
Okay, you still can't see me?
During the presentations, Mr. Hale, if you want to,
During the presentation, he wasn't present visually. And it's my determination that therefore he can't participate in or vote on this particular petition. Now that we have him visually as part of this process, he's certainly welcome to both participate and vote.
just not on this petition.
It's not on this petition because he wasn't present for the presentation and for public comment.
Mr. President, I know it's as a point of order, may I just make an objection for the record? I with all due respect to Mr. Hale, and I respect him as much as anybody, I disagree, and I want to just voice my concern and objection because the requirement is that he is able to be seen and heard to cast a vote, at which it also has to be a roll call vote. That is my understanding of the law, but I want to make sure that that is on the record in the event that we are not approved and somehow that his absence, if it were going to be a yes vote, would otherwise affect the outcome of our request. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have a motion by Mr. Klinder. Is there a second?
Yeah, I make the motion. We go on.
You're making the second?
Mhm.
So I have a second by Ms. Stransky. Would you call the roll, please?
Ricky Jackson,
Yes.
Fred Klinder,
Yes.
Kathy Stransky,
No,
Carol Spreitzer,
no,
Brian, did I still call it Brian Gross?
No.
Okay.
So we have a situation where we do not have a decision. So the appropriate thing will be to continue this matter to next month when we have hopefully a full board and we'll be able to arrive 3 votes to approve because 3 votes are also required to deny. And if you're tied 2-2, the only way to break that is to have this decided at our next meeting next month.
Thank you.
Mr. Hale, if I may ask a question, it will just be a revote. It will not be a representation of all the material in public hearing.
Well, that's a good question. I would ask the petitioner's counsel if he has an opinion on that.
My opinion is that the public hearing is closed and we wouldn't intend to present any more materials or that come with an expectation that anything would be necessary unless we were requested. But from our position that everything is closed and it's for consideration if the BZA is inclined to consider this matter for a vote.
Well, I'm going to advise the commission that because this matter ended with only 4 members voting and we need the 5th member to vote, that it's required that Mr. Gross be present for a presentation and a public hearing, and that we should can open up at our next meeting for additional comments from the petitioner and the public.
Mr. President, I just want to voice again my objection and with the same amount of respect that once that public hearing is closed, I do think it's your prerogative as to how this gets conducted. But I would also ask about the possibility of making a conditional vote in case there is a determination that Mr. Gross should have been allowed because we are greatly impaired. We have time constraints under our contract. That's not your fault. And so there's no blame being chucked across the side, but we are greatly burdened by the potential outcome and further delay that happens as a result of the decision. And I respect Mr. Hale's opinion, but I would ask that maybe you entertain a conditional vote so that if it is deemed legal, that Mr. Gross could vote, that this matter could be resolved this evening as well. But I also want to point out again, as you know, Mr. Hale is your attorney, and I've of course deferred to what his advice is to the BZA.
Okay, first of all, the public hearing on this matter isn't closed. We did have a vote, but we haven't actually closed down the hearing because we didn't have a conclusive vote. It has to go forward. Next, I would say that there is nothing under our zoning ordinance that permits some sort of provisional vote, and that should not be undertaken this evening.
All right. Anything else? Next petition. All right, we're going to move on. Next petition, please.
Is this matter then continued till the next meeting?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Gross. Let's just indicate for the record that this matter is continued. This petition, B101-25 is continued to our next monthly meeting, which is April
14th.
April 14th, 2026 at 6 p.m. in these same quarters.
All right, thank you. All right, let's move on to our next petition, please, Dr. Edwards.
Next petition, B-101-26, John C. and Elizabeth Traub, requesting a development standard variance at 107 Nevada Avenue to reconstruct a single-family residence on a non-conforming lot.
Good evening.
Good
Your
evening,
name and
Mr.
address for the
President.
record, please.
Absolutely. My name is Barry McDonald. I'm an attorney here in Michigan City with offices at 601 Franklin Street. And I am before you, Mr. President, members of the board, representing the petitioners, John and Elizabeth Traub, who are the owners of their home at 107 Nevada Avenue, located in Sheridan Beach. And they are requesting a development standard variance to allow them to reconstruct their 110-year-old beach cottage on essentially the same footprint that currently exists, but with the addition of a one-car garage and three-season room and deck above that garage on the north side of the property, which is essentially the only free space on that lot. The Traubs are out of town, but I see that, or at least he was during the areas, John Traub is actually online if the board has any questions that I'm not able to answer. I'll do my best, since the last presentation was long, to keep this under an hour and 15 minutes so that we can, just joking. I just got an alert there's a tornado watch, so I will try and be as brief as I can. I did want to present to Mr. Hale. I received 2 additional green cards today, as is often the case, even though I presented the rest of my packet to the department yesterday. But if I could approach and just get these handed over. So a little background, my clients purchased this home 26 years ago as a vacation home, as a lot of people down in Sheridan Beach do. But since they are both Hoosiers, and in fact, Beth is a Michigan City native, they always wanted to retire here. And now that both of them are fully retired, they've made Michigan City their home. However, there is only so much that they can do to this 110-year-old beach cottage. They have done a human's job of making all the improvements that you could make to this structure. They've spent tens of thousands of dollars over the last 2 decades improving it and making it as good as it can be. But quite candidly, they've reached a point where it does not make sense to throw good money after bad. When they purchased this property, it was actually a multi-family rental. So kind of the reverse of what you see down in the beach area, they converted it to a single family residence that has no rental activity. So they did the opposite, which I think as a fellow Sheridan Beach resident is awesome for the neighborhood. However, it's time for a redo. Everything needs replacing: windows, doors, siding, roof. There's no insulation, electrical, you name it. And so we are here this evening asking for this board's help via the development standard variance. Why? Essentially, like many of the lots down in Sheridan Beach, they are non-compliant. Their lot is less than 1/2 of the size of what the current zoning code requires. As is, by the way, the bulk of the lots in their neighborhood and almost all but one lot in their whole block. If you go and look at a beacon shot and look at the aerial, all of the lots are non-conforming. And so anybody that wants to build or rebuild anything is going to have to come before this zoning board. And the city's done a great job of creating alternative standards for the R1E waterfront district, but they only go so far. They can't help a lot of these homes, particularly on Nevada Avenue, where the lots are what they are. So the lot's non-conforming. If we were to follow the setback requirements and the lot coverage requirements, and actually one of our submissions shows it, the home that could be built based on, again, the setbacks on this lot would allow for a 12.5 by 30 foot home, which is really not a home as much as a trailer. And that in itself isn't compliant. So even if they said, all right, let's give that a whirl, that's not compliant because there's a minimum square footage requirement to build a home, and that's 800 square feet of footprint. So they are damned if they do and damned if they don't. They literally cannot rebuild this home. And again, they're asking to essentially rebuild on the same footprint that's existed for 110 plus years at this point. But they can't do it without this board's help. The only addition to that footprint is, again, a single car garage over a portion of their driveway, which is, again, the only free space, if you will, that you could do anything on this structure. There's no other free ground on which to put any addition. And again, above the garage, they want to put a 3-season room and a deck so that they can enjoy the outdoor area, at least in the summertime in Michigan City. I have submitted, as one must, to the board my proposed findings and order that are a requirement of all petitions that come before this board. Particularly, unlike the prior petition, this is in fact a development standard variance, and so our requirements are slightly different than a special use or a special exception. The first of those requirements is that the development standard variance will not be injurious to the health, safety, morals, and welfare of the community. I always find it interesting that morals is in there. It seems that would be maybe relevant in a use petition, but I'm not sure how making a house bigger, smaller, or taller gets into morals, but that's part of the issue. But in this instance, certainly having a more modern, safer, code-compliant structure versus what is there now will certainly improve the safety of the neighborhood. And in fact, there will be no loss of off-street parking as a result of this construction. There will still be room for 2 off-site in addition to the garage space. So there's no loss because where they're putting the garage is kind of in a funky area where there's kind of a deck and kind of an old patio. And so they're really not losing any parking space, which is, of course, in Sheridan Beach, very important. Secondly, the development standard variance requested will not affect the use and value of the area adjacent to the property. Again, their home is going to be of the same size, quality that all the other neighboring homes have been. And quite honestly, a lot of those homes have been rebuilt. And they were rebuilt and reconstructed in a much more lenient era, let's say, in Sheridan Beach history, where you didn't have to come before this board if you were rebuilding on the same footprint. You could just kind of do it. And it was much easier, quite honestly, to rebuild. Now it's a different era. There are more contingencies, more requirements. They really just want to do what everyone else in the neighborhood has done, is rebuild their structure on essentially the same footprint. One good thing, when we talk of value, certainly I would argue that a new home, beautiful, aesthetically pleasing, is going to improve the value of their surrounding neighbors, but also it's going to eliminate encroachments. Right now, their home, as it has, again, for probably 110 years, has a slight encroachment of the chimney on their neighbor to the south, which will be gone, and encroaches upon the city right-of-way. In other words, it encroaches on Nevada Avenue right-of-way, and again, has forever. That's going to be gone as well. So while the setbacks aren't compliant, they're actually going to bring the home in within the lot lines, which is a good thing. Finally, If the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance would result in practical difficulties in the use of the property. Obviously, a lot of times when we come before this board, we lawyers get rather creative about practical difficulties or hardship. A lot of times we sell that to this board, or we try to sell this to the board, but it's really about convenience or what they want. It's a want, not a need. Here it is a need. If they do not get this, they cannot rebuild the home. They are going to be stuck with a 110-year-old home, and it just doesn't make sense to, at a certain point, keep putting money into it. So there's no exception that allows, unless there are certain categories where you can rebuild a home, but it's based on usually a percentage of the value of the home, which wouldn't be relevant here if there were a fire, but none of those things are relevant. So we have to come before you to rebuild this structure. So that is why we are here. I've submitted again in fairly good detail site plans provided by Global Engineering, the survey, elevations. Perhaps some of the board has taken the time to drive down there, but if you've been to Sheridan Beach, you kind of know the lay of the land down there. So again, I'm happy, as is Mr. Traub, to answer any questions you might have. Appreciate the assistance of Dr. Edwards guiding us through this process, and appreciate this board's time and attention this evening. Thanks much.
Thank you. Dr. Edwards, can we get into your planning report, please?
Yes, sir. Will staff present the report for petition B-101-26?
Your name for the record, please.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Everett Ebling, a permit specialist in the planning department. I'm here to present the planning department report for petition number B-101-26, 107 Nevada Avenue, petition for John C. Traub and Elizabeth Traub. This is a development standard variance. And next are the department comments. Water department. The department has no concerns with the use of the property for a single family residence on this lot. Due to the location of the existing water main along Nevada Avenue, we do request that structures, including decorative walls, are not allowed to extend past the western property line adjacent to the Nevada Avenue right-of-way. Pavement, including parking spots, driveways, and sidewalks, are not an issue. Sanitation department, no feedback received. Fire department, no feedback received. Police department, we have no issues with this construction request. Engineering department, no feedback received. And here is the planning department report. The planning department has analyzed the petition and compiled this report for the requested development standard variance in R1E parcel. Required is table 4.4 in R1E zoning requires 20 foot setbacks in the front, 20 foot setbacks in the rear, and either 7 foot or 14 side yard setbacks. And table 4.4 permits building lot coverage up to 50% and impervious surface lot coverage up to 55%. And section 28.11 permits to the Board of Zoning Appeals to approve a development standard variance if all listed standards are met. And what's proposed is, like we said before, petitioners wish to reconstruct their existing 110-year-old Sheridan Beach cottage to provide them with an updated, safer, and more livable full-time residence with a single-car garage for vehicular parking and storage. And development standard variance to expand their single-family residence on a non-conformant lot is for setbacks and lot coverage. Now, here are the proposed findings for development standard variance. The standards for the development standard variance have been outlined in italics in 28.11B, followed by the department's proposed findings corresponding to each standard. Standard number 1, the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. Proposed findings, the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. The structure would be built to the City of Michigan City Building Code standards. The proposed reconstructed single-family residence will provide for a more modern, code-compliant, and safer residence. The reconstructed residence will be built on essentially the same footprint with the addition of a single-car garage with indoor-outdoor living space above, creating no loss of off-street parking in this congested area of Sheridan Beach. Standard number 2. The use and value of the area adjacent to the property will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. The proposed findings, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. The Sheridan Beach neighborhood in Michigan City has seen many homes added onto or rebuilt in a similar fashion. There are many non-conforming lots in the neighborhood, and the substantial investment made by the petitioners will increase the value of the homes that surround it, many of which have been reconstructed and modernized as well, but will be done in a way that does not negatively impact views or open spaces of neighboring properties and, in fact, eliminates all current encroachments over lot lines and the right-of-way. Standard number 3. The strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property. Practical difficulties shall result from exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions applying to the property that do not apply generally to other properties in the same zoning district. The variance shall be necessary for the preservation and enjoyment of a substantial property right similar to that possessed by other properties in the same zoning district. Proposed findings: the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property. The lot coverage and setbacks of the subject home will be in keeping with those of the neighboring homes, most of which are non-compliant and incapable of being compliant with the R1E development standards. Variances for setbacks of some kind would be needed for most typical home construction methods. Others in the neighborhood have received variances of a similar nature, especially when rebuilding on the footprint of the original structure. Without a variance, the petitioners cannot build a residence of a size in keeping with the R1E minimum requirements for the non-conforming and small lot. Recommendation. The Planning Department recommends approval of the requested development standard variance to allow the petitioner to exceed the front, rear, and side setbacks to allow the petitioner to exceed the maximum impervious surface and building lot coverage. And this is all the Planning Department report. Thank you.
Thank you, Everett.
Thank you. Mr. Hale, could we go into your report?
Yes, sir. My report is for petition number B-101-26. The petitioner applicants are John C. Traub and Elizabeth Traub. The request is for a development standards variance for property at 107 Nevada Avenue, Michigan City. The property is located in R1E Waterfront Residential District. They need these development standard variances to tear down their existing home and build a new home on the same footprint. But that means that they will have in 3 sides, 0 lot lines. That is, they need some sort of relief from our setbacks and from our lot coverage, meaning how much of the lot will be covered by the home. The appropriate standards to be considered by this body, again, are found in section 28.11 sub B of our zoning ordinance. They're a little bit different, as you must have just heard, from the ones we just discussed. You heard them in the report that was just read by Mr. Ebling. You may, under section 2805B, grant the request, partially granted or granted with limitations, which must be included in the motion. Grant the request, but subject to certain conditions, which must be included in the motion. Or deny the request or table the request until a future meeting. I've listed the materials that the petitioner included, noting that the record includes these materials, which were rather extensive in terms of plans and floor plans, and the Planning Department report, this report, and the presentation of Mr. O'Donnell on behalf of the petitioner. That's the extent of my report.
Thank you, Mr. Hale. Next, we have board comments or questions? Any comments or questions from the board?
I do for the attorney. On page 6 of the petition, it states you check the box of development standard variation. On the signature page, page 8, it says use variation or use variance. Has that been corrected?
You're correct. I noticed. It's a typo, Mr. Gross. It is in fact a special exception. It's a development standard variance.
Okay, I think we need to correct that.
The department has seen that particular oversight, but as stated this evening, the petitioner is simply applying for a development standard variance. So that was simply a typo.
And Mr. Gross, if either Dr. Edwards or Mr. Hale want my clients or I on their behalf to mark up the original in their file, I would be happy to do that.
Mr. Gross, do you have something else?
That's all I have for now.
Okay. Is there other questions or comments?
Yes, I have a concern. So if they build to the end of their property, okay, all the way to the end, how do we plow the snow as the city? How do you not, I don't know, I don't understand that would be a safe thing for our city equipment, our drivers, or the house.
If I understood right, and please correct me if I'm off on this, didn't you say that the front property line, the house would be coming back away from the street just a little bit?
Correct.
So
I will tell you, I think to answer your concern, Ms. Stransky, their house and many of the homes on Illinois, Nevada, all are essentially on the lot lines of the public right-of-way. However, remember that the right-of-way line isn't the pavement line. So there's usually an additional, depending on where you are, 10 feet. I know when we built our house where where the public would think my lot line is, we're actually 10 feet till we hit the street. And so I'm sure in this case, I don't know that I can rattle off the calculations, but I assure you there is going to be an adequate separation between the home and the pavement. In fact, there's a sidewalk there that separates them before. So there's going to be the pavement, sidewalk, and then you finally get to their home and their construction. But I've never known, quite honestly, I appreciate the city's great efforts at getting to Sheridan Beach, but we're not necessarily priority number one in terms of plowing, nor should we be, because there's only a few of us there in the winter. But I've never heard of it being an incident. It's never been an incident for my home. I've never heard it be of an issue for the Traub's home either.
I think it's still a concern that maybe we should be considering, because what it cost us when they have an accident and they run over your porch or they hit your car, then the city's paying for that. The city has to pay for that. And if we don't let them come up that far onto the street and we have a place to put the snow, or we have a place to put then it's a different issue.
And I guess what I'm saying to you is their home will not be right up against the pavement of Nevada Avenue. It won't be.
And how much space are they going to leave there for that kind of activity? Are they going to set back 6 feet, 5 feet? What are they going to do? Because that's a concern. Every winter we have issues with yards and driveways and snowplows.
Again, there is a sidewalk that exists. They're not obviously encroaching on the sidewalk. So I would hope our city plows are not generally going over the sidewalk. But even if they do, they're still not going to hit this home. The home is going to be essentially, though, only 1 foot off the front lot line. But again, I just want you to make sure you understand that's not 1 foot off the pavement.
Right.
It might be 10 feet off the pavement. And so I would hope a snowplow driver wouldn't be veering off 10 feet off course. The other thing I'd note, again, you may be bringing up a very legitimate point throughout the city, but in this particular neighborhood, they're at the end or near the end of a one-way street. So that snowplow driver is already blowing by 3 homes that have similar front setbacks. So just as a practical way, there's no way that, unless someone were deliberate about that, they would go and kind of run into what will be their foundation. It hasn't happened yet in 110 years, and the foundation's been there. The same foundation still exists, actually.
Yes, but my concern is, as this keeps going on, we just keep doing this and letting these homes come up that far. We don't, somewhere it's got to break and you got to say, okay, this is city and this is theirs.
Correct.
Yes. Okay.
All right. Any other comments?
I guess I could make one more comment. You could actually bring this new construction into city code by buying additional lots, but that is probably not a practical solution for everybody wanting to upgrade homes in that area.
There's not enough lot. They're all occupied.
Yeah, yeah, Mr. Gross, in this particular area there, I don't know of, well, certainly on their block, there is no lot. You'd have to buy a house from your neighbor and tear it down. And I don't think that's not an option. I think knowing some of those neighbors, since they're only a block away from my house, I don't think they have any intention of going anywhere. But I do agree with you. That would be a wonderful solution in Sheridan Beach. It's just that's not usually an option down there. It's not a luxury most people have.
Right, it's correct. It's totally impractical down there.
Yeah. Any other comments? Any other comments? All right, we're going to move into public comment, please. Public comment? You have somebody online?
Yes, Scott Melland, 200 Kenwood Place. I might be gone, but I'm not forgotten. This is one I support. Non-conforming lots are essentially unbuildable without some type of relief. When the law precludes rebuilding, that's a taking. That's a harm. That's a taking. Are we going to compensate the people? We're not Europe. We don't have 400-year-old houses on the beach. I'm not familiar with their property, but I'm assuming being built over 100 years ago was kind of built as a modest summer beach cottage. They don't last for 100 years without significant updating. So if our law precludes them from updating the house, including services, plumbing, electric, safety systems, things, the city cares about, we have to make an exception to allow them to do the right thing. And some of the concerns expressed by the commission, I find a little odd. This is a non-conforming lot. The front setback is going to be greater than it currently is. I don't see how that creates additional harm for city services. As already admitted, buying multiple lots to make a conforming parcel is not only impractical, it's impossible, as the other parcels adjacent to it are occupied. So by all means, I feel, since they're staying in the same floor plan, the same perimeter, same foundation area, that you should absolutely grant this variance so these folks can, it sounds like, build a new house, which would be better for the city than a 110-year-old rehab special. Thank you.
Public comment?
Oh, yes, Tommy Kolovic, 1316 Ohio Street. I support this and welcome the people of Michigan City. Property will be reassessed. It'll probably be more valuable, and as it'll add more of our local property tax base. So I really hope this goes through, and it's a great presentation, Mr. McDonald.
Public comment? Public comment? Public comment? Public comment's now closed. Board members, is there a motion? Would anyone like to make a motion or more discussion?
I have no discussion other than I hope they get their front doorway up to street level right now. They're going to flood tonight. And I make a motion that we approve petition B-101.26 as indicated by the planning department.
I have a motion by Mr. Klinder. Is there a second?
I second.
I have a second by Carol. Yeah, by Carol. Further roll, Dr. Edwards, please.
Ricky Jackson,
Yes.
Greg Klinder,
Yes.
Kathy Stransky,
No.
Carol Spreitzer,
Yes.
and Brian Gross.
Yes.
Motion passes. Congratulations. Thank you.
Very much.
Our next petition, please.
B-102-26, Indie Homes 100-S22 Series LLC, requesting a special exception use for 806 US Highway 20 to construct a used car dealership.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Dr. Edwards. Attorney Nathan Viss here on behalf of Indie Homes 100 LLC. Address is, I got to make sure I get it straight, as I just moved offices last week, 13830 Alexander Street in Cedar Lake. Here before you this evening, seeking a special exception use for the property. Just to clarify, it's not to construct a used car dealership, but rather to operate a used car dealership on the premises. So I just want to clarify that for the record. If you've driven by this premises, I had the opportunity on the way in this evening. This is part of our commercial corridor here in Michigan City. Immediately surrounding this parcel is a variety of trucking entities and a little postage stamp, 2.25 acres. That's my client's property, is zoned B2. And when we come to B2, as I typically find a lot of municipalities that I come before, a used car dealership is an allowed use there, but it requires a special exception to go before the BZA, as you may have some additional requirements notating that at times you can have bad actors that can jam pack these lots full, and that definitely is not the case here. This property previously may be familiar with it. It used to operate as the craft auction base. They would operate their estate section out of this. And instead, my client is looking to utilize the existing space, the existing parking lot for used car sales. Specifically, the emphasis is turning into interior sales. So the goal here is to maximize the 20,000 square foot building that's on site and house the vehicles inside, out of the elements, safe and secure inside. Most sales for vehicles are turning into online biz. And my client has owned this property for a period of time, and this is a great facility. I've got some indoor pictures that we can take a look at. But again, recognizing the history for lots of this size for vehicle sales, my client's not looking to jam pack it. As we outlined in our application letter, we're looking for approval up to 20 vehicles for the interior showroom and storage, up to 25 vehicles that can be stacked on the outside. And this would leave approximately 12 parking spaces for employees and for customers. And with the anticipated volume, with the anticipated approximately 5 to 7 employees, this more than maximizes the number of spaces that we would need. A couple of questions that staff appropriately raised, and I appreciate you raising them, as well, what other activities might happen on site? We're not engaging in oil changes. We're not engaging in dent repair. We're not engaging in pulling transmissions. This is bringing vehicles in. This is shining them up. This is marketing them, and this is getting them sold. The public will be invited. There will be allocated hours during the day, regular business hours, but we anticipate the majority of the sales are going to be online. We submitted a packet. I'll just briefly go through it. I highlighted a couple of the pages just in the packet before we began this evening. If you turn to page 3, it's kind of an overview site plan, which I think really lends itself well to the type of sales that will be going on this facility. You can see on Highway 20, we have not one, but 2 ingress points. Page 3 in the packet that I handed out. Mr. Kinder, you got it right there. There you go, sir. Yep. I got a brand new printer in the office. It looks like we cut off the pages on the bottom. But you can see there, it's a U-shaped driveway. That's important when you have car carriers that are bringing in vehicles. They can swoop in, they can back up, they can unload and head back out on Route 20. As well, you can see surrounding the building is where there would be parking for customers and for the employees. And then you can see the anticipated stacking of vehicles that are waiting to go into the warehouse on the right-hand side. So that just gives us a visual. Page 4 depicted an overview of the 20,000 square foot warehouse. This is really, and my client could push for more, but what he's indicated to me is I want it to be spacious, I want it to be nice, and so you can see the proposed 20 cars that would be housed on the inside, as well as break rooms, office spaces, and bathrooms. keep turning the pages. I've given a GIS overview from Beacon Schneider here. If you look at the picture at the top where the red postage stamp surrounding it are a wide variety of M1 uses. We would definitely be the lightest use in this area. And then just continuing in pages 6 through 8, just a variety of pictures through the area. 20 throughout this corridor has 2 lanes going east, 2 lanes going west, as well as a turn lane down the middle, which again, when it comes to ingress, egress provides a very safe corridor for semi-traffic. We anticipate at most 1 to 2 a week dropping off vehicles, as well as customers pulling in and out and employees. And you also have great visibility for those that need to ingress, egress onto Route 20. Last couple pictures. Again, the inside of the premises looks wonderful. My client looks forward to continuing to clean it up for use for the business. In conclusion, not to elongate our evening, this is for a special exception use. So there are 7 criteria that you have. We've submitted a proposed findings and order. The first question is this a permissible use? It absolutely is. Second, will the use be detrimental or endanger the public health, safety, morals, comfort, general welfare? As we've outlined, no, we're not going to metamorphosize any changes here. The accent of the property is not going to change. The property can be safely used for this type of business. It's going to add value. 3, will it be injurious to the use and enjoyment of the other properties in the area? Absolutely not. The traffic, there's going to be no dust that's created as a result of this, so there is no injury. 4th, will it impede the normal and orderly development of the surrounding properties? This is long-standing development, so it will not negatively affect the development in that area. 5th, is there adequate utilities, access, drainage, etc.? Yes. Long-standing development, we're not adding any additional impervious or other surfaces in the area. It's going to continue as is. 5th, is there adequate measures for ingress and egress? There absolutely is. We've talked about the U-shape ingress and egress. And 7th, will the special exception requested conform to the special conditions outlined in your zoning ordinance? And they absolutely will, as we have outlined. We will entertain any questions. We appreciate your time here this evening, and we're looking forward to moving a new business here to Michigan City.
Thank you. Board members, is there any questions? No?
Yes, I have a question. I have a couple, in fact. Are the hours of operation going to be limited?
When you say limited, Mr. Gross, meaning anything beyond what is customary from, say, 9 o'clock to, say, 7 o'clock?
Yes, they aren't going to be operating 24/7 or anything.
No, not for customer access. I would anticipate if my client has employees that want to be, say, for example, inside working, but there's not the public invited, I would assume that that can continue, but to have public traffic in and out beyond those hours, no.
Okay, and the other question, are all of the driveways and the space that the car carrier may be traversing, are those already paved, impervious?
Let me ask my client.
The driveways are paved.
Yeah, the driveways are all paved. Yes, Mr. Gross.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, Dr. Edwards, if you could, please.
Regarding department comments, we'll start with the water department. The water department has stated that the use of the property as a car dealership does not concern the water department since there is adequate infrastructure and capacity to supply the business. The department does hold a 10-foot wide easement across the whole northern edge of the property adjacent to the US 20 right-of-way, and the easement does put restrictions on the location of structures and signage within the easement. The pavement over said easement, however, is not an issue. Sanitation department will receive no feedback. Fire department, we did receive feedback that we'll discuss later, and that is a part of the conditions. The police department, they have no issues with the business or the request. The engineering department stated that this proposed operation is on an NDOT route. It is a change of use, and NDOT will require a driveway permit. So Engineer Warner recommends that the developer contact NDOT to obtain their approval. Regarding the planning department, we have analyzed this petition and compiled a report under the special exception use as a zoned B2 parcel. It is required under Section 7 which requires automobile sales to obtain a special exception use, and adheres to Section 2405, which permits the BZA to grant the special exception use if all standards are met. Oops. Come on. And regarding general welfare, the proposal will not be injurious to the public health, safety, and general welfare of the community. Traffic routes will not be impacted since existing access will be utilized. In regards to the surrounding property, the special exception use will not be injurious to the use and enjoyment of other property in the immediate vicinity for the purpose already permitted, nor substantially diminish or impair property values within the neighborhood. The establishment of the special exception use will not impede the normal and orderly development and improvement of the surrounding property for uses permitted in the district. A used car dealership at this location will not be injurious to the use and enjoyment of other property in the immediate vicinity for the purpose that is already permitted. Again, nor substantially diminish or impair property values within the neighborhood. It will not impede the normal and orderly development and improvements of the surrounding property for uses permitted in the district. The surrounding properties are zoned M1 and B3. The property to the west under M1 zoning is currently being used as a storage facility. The property to the east and the south under B3 zoning is currently a salvage and recycled auto parts store. The petitioner's property is located on Highway 20, which is a commercial corridor made of light industrial service uses. And because of this, the automobile sales will complement the characteristics and uses within this commercial corridor. Property owners of both adjacent properties must be notified. Regarding hazards, the special exception use shall not be hazardous to adjacent property or involve uses, activities, materials, or equipment which will be detrimental to the health, safety, or welfare of persons or property through the excessive production of traffic or noise, smoke, odor, fumes, or glare, to be consistent with the intent of the ordinance. Conditions 1, 2, and 3 shall be addressed to meet the standard of the joint zoning ordinance. According to the petitioner, operations will comply with all federal, state, and local regulations, including environmental standards for emissions, stormwater management, and waste disposal. The petitioner also mentioned that no hazardous materials beyond standard automotive fluids will be involved. Drainage problems have taken place on Highway 20 in the past, and B2 zoning allows for a maximum of 85% impervious surface lot coverage. The building currently does not have a sprinkler system. Regarding public facilities and services, the use will be served adequately by essential public facilities and services, such as highways, streets, police, and fire protection. The petitioner mentioned that adequate measures have been or will be taken to provide ingress and egress so designed as to minimize traffic congestion in the public streets. The petitioner additionally mentioned that utilities that include water, sewer, and electricity are also sufficient. Regarding development requirements, the development of the property will be consistent with the intent of the development requirements established by this ordinance for similar uses. A car dealership for new and used automobiles is compatible with and will not significantly alter the intended character of the general vicinity, considering that development requirements established by this ordinance and by the city comprehensive plan highlight this area as a commercial and industrial area capable of supporting large volumes of vehicular traffic. Regarding ordinance intent, granting the special exception use will not be contrary to the general purposes that are served by this ordinance and will not permanently injure other property or uses in the same zoning district and vicinity, as the subject area is characterized by existing commercial and light industrial uses of a similar nature, including a semi-truck rental business, a salvage yard, and a storage business. Regarding the comprehensive plan, The proposed use will be consistent with the character of the zoning district in which it is located and the provisions of the Michigan City Comprehensive Plan. A used car dealership is consistent with the surrounding land uses and the intended ordinances of this corridor. The zoning district is made up of light industry and commercial zoning. Many automobile businesses already exist within the zoning district, including LKG Great Lakes and Williams National Lease. This proposal will create, I believe, up to 20 jobs. Okay. And contribute to local tax revenue. Regarding use regulations, the development or the proposed operations rather must conform with the city code regarding its use in Article 14. And currently there are no specific use regulations for car dealerships under Article 14. Regarding our recommendation, planning staff has reviewed the proposed used car dealership operations and recommends approval contingent upon compliance with all applicable conditions. Condition 1, impervious surface must stay below 85% of the total surface area. Condition 2, vehicle repair or maintenance services shall not be conducted on the premises, and the storage of flammable liquids or large quantities of paint shall not be permitted. And condition 3, the petitioner shall comply with all legal requirements concerning fire suppression, sprinkler systems, and other similar requirements, and shall confer with the Michigan City Fire Marshal and comply with their requirements prior to opening for operations. Any system required to be installed shall be in operation prior to opening for business and shall be approved by the planning director.
Thank you, Doctor. If we could move right into Mr. Hale's report, please.
My report is for petition number B-102-26. The petitioner applicant is Indy Homes 100-S 22 Series LLC. Property owner is the same. This request is for special exception use for property located at 806 West Highway 20, Michigan City. I've listed the materials that are included as part of the record. They would include also the department report and the presentation of the petitioner this evening. The petitioner is requesting for approval to operate an automobile sales business in a B2 general commercial district. And that means that he has to have approval of this body for a special exception use. And to approve a special exception use, this body must find that the standards of section 24.05 of our zoning ordinance are each found to be true. You heard Dr. Edwards go over those. And so you have them in writing in her report and my report in front of you. You may approve the petition if findings are made consistent with the general requirements of section 2405. There are no use requirements under section 1405, so that need not be considered. You may approve the request with findings consistent with section 2405, but subject to certain conditions. Those conditions have to be included in the motion. You may deny the request or you may continue it to a future meeting. I would just note for you that the planning department has set forth certain conditions and they should be included in any motion, and you should be adopting the findings if you find them to be appropriate and you're moving for approval.
Thank you, Mr. Hale. Board members, is there any comments, questions?
Question for Dr. Edwards. She may or may not know. Are sprinkler systems required in this type of building at that size?
That is the feedback that was provided by Fire Marshal Bruder. I believe regarding that it is a requirement based off of the International Building Code that Fire Marshal Bruder refers to in regards to fire suppression and regarding the building of this size. Okay, and then a follow-up question, not necessarily for you, but for the attorney. Typically, fire suppression water mains are going to be significantly larger than the regular building mains.
So if you got a 4-inch building main coming in, your fire suppression may be 8 inches. Have you checked with the fire department, with the water department to see if they can supply water of that quantity to the building yet?
If you're asking me, I would tell you that I don't know that that would be something that the planning department would do. But I will say that the condition that the planning department has requested, if approval is motioned, includes a requirement that they follow all the requirements, both as to the fire marshal and as to the enforcement officer, that is Dr. Edwards herself. So any requirement to meet water levels required for an effective sprinkler system will be included as a requirement that the fire marshal and Dr. Edwards can enforce.
Okay, I'm sorry, that wasn't for you, Mr. Hale. That was for their attorney or representative. And
Well, you have the answer. I don't know if they actually
are they
inquired.
still there?
Yes.
Okay. And have you checked with the water department yet to see if they could supply the necessary volume and pressure you would need for a sprinkler system adequate for that building?
Yeah, Mr. Gross, good question. Typically, what I have found with other clients that I've represented is if there is a necessity of a fire suppression system, a 1 or a 1.5 inch is sufficient to provide the water pressure necessary for a fire suppression system. In this case, it's my understanding that that is currently at the property. I guess respectfully, I would request that the motion pass without the requirement that there is a fire suppression system installed. To install one in this building, which is basically a wide open warehouse. In past clients that I've had, the necessity of that is contingent upon the use. For example, a bed and breakfast, things of that nature is when it's necessary. For buildings such as this, which are pre-existing, it's not a flammable use that's in the premises. It's very prohibitive to insert this in there. And that also means that heating the premises to a constant temperature that's going to avoid the freezing. So I respect fire department's opinion. I also represent fire departments, so I enjoy saying that. But I think this evening it's not necessary to mandate that a fire suppression system be installed in this building when in the past in renovation use we haven't expected that.
I think, I'm sorry. I think when they talked about the recommendations, let me read this to make sure we understand this correctly. The petitioner will or shall comply with all legal requirements concerning fire suppression and sprinkler systems. So I think that was going to be out of our control anyway. If we grant this, this is still going to be the fact that we're putting in there that you're going to work with the fire department. And if the fire department says you have to have one, you'll have to have one. Otherwise, they're not going to let you open. So
Okay. No,
am I correct in saying that?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, I appreciate that clarification.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I understand that. The problem being if they have a 1.5 inch water main coming in and they will require a 4 to 6 inch for fire suppression. The reason I'm saying this, I worked in a building where we had an 8-inch main to provide the building with water, and we had to bring in a 12-inch main just for fire protection. Fire protection is typically much larger. And I'm not, the question would be that far out toward the boundary of the city, is that capability even there? That's not the fire department, that's actually the water department that would have to answer that. So you could put in a fire suppression system, but if you can't get the water to it, it won't work.
And again, if we make the motion to grant this, then that's going to be between the petitioner, the water department, and the fire marshal. So, yeah. Is there any other discussion? All right, then we'll move into public comment. Public comment?
Yes, this is Tommy Kolovic. I hope you approve this. I said the best taxpayers we got are car dealerships and auto dealers. There's certainly nothing wrong with another car dealership going along the US 20 corridor. You drive down to Lafayette. I'm sure we all been to Purdue. Drive up and down Sagamore Parkway. The whole strip is nothing but there's only one Bob Rohrman car dealerships. So I really want to welcome to Michigan City. And if you get a nice light truck in, could be one of your customers. Thank you.
Public comment?
Hello, Scott.
Public comments?
Scott Milan, 200 Kenwood Place. I think this is a good use for the site. So I hope you approve this. I would point out that it's important for us all to stay in our lane. They're asking for a special use thing. We're not here to engineer their property. They clearly have to comply with all appropriate laws and findings from the planning department. So we shouldn't muddy up motions with unnecessary verbiage. Once again, I will point out, there are no exhibits for public review. Let's review why we have these things. We have the open meeting law for a reason. The purpose of that act is to fully inform the public. So if we're not doing that, we need to do better. I'm going to make this point at every board over and over again until this is fixed, because this is unacceptable. I just spent on a previous matter 6 months following to be told that I was studying the wrong material. That's very frustrating for somebody who's trying to do the right thing. Because we called something a special exception instead of a variance, this layperson was looking at the wrong body of law. And nobody in the last 6 months had the consideration to say, Scott, you might want to look there because you might be looking in the wrong direction. That's very upsetting for a member of the public. That's an aside. Again, we need presentation materials for the public's review. And this is a good use for this property. And you should, I hope you pass it forward with your recommendation. Thank you.
Okay. Public comment? Public comment? Public comment is now closed. Board members, is there any more discussion or is there a motion?
I make a motion that we end our meeting tonight. No? Oh, we're not ending yet. No, sorry.
Are you making it? We're looking for a motion for this petition to approve or
Okay,
disapprove.
we're making a motion for the last petition for a disapprove or an approve.
That's what we're looking for.
That's what we're looking for.
Yeah. So is there a motion?
I move that we approve petition B102-26 with the conditions as outlined in the plan department. Conditions 1 through
Second.
Mr. Hale. Mr. Gross, would you add to your motion that you include adoption of the findings in the staff report?
Okay, and adoption of the 3 motions or conditions as in the staff report.
Well, it isn't the conditions. You said that and that's established, but the findings that were in that report. Findings for the standard.
And I also move that we include the fine.
The staff report had proposed findings after each of the standards. And I'm asking if you will include those in your motions. I understand that you are including them, as well as requiring that the conditions be established as part of the approval.
Correct. So I will restate the motion. I move that we approve B102-26 to include the findings of the staff report and to include the conditions 1 through 3 that the plan department
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Gross and a second by Mr. Jackson.
I have a motion by Mr. Gross, a second by Mr. Klinder. Dr. Edwards, if you'd call the roll, please.
Ricky Jackson,
Yes.
Fred Klinder,
Yes.
Kathy Stransky,
Yes.
Carol Spreitzer,
Yes.
and Brian Gross.
Yes.
All right, the motion passes. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Dr. Edwards, if you'd call our next petition, please.
Our last petition of the evening is B-103-26 Hubrew LLC, requesting a special exception use as well as a development standard variance to develop a 7 Brew coffee shop at 4359 Franklin Street, previously the old KFC.
Good evening. Your name and address for the records, please.
Good evening, board and staff. My name is Craig Lorig with DVG Team, 1155 Troutwine Road, Crown Point, Indiana. We are the surveyor and site civil engineer for the project. We're here before you tonight for a special use exception request as well as 1 development standard variance request. Also with me is Laura Pacino from Hubrew. They are the petitioner. We are representing on their behalf Corey Dedamore, who's the developer. Before I get into the nuts and bolts of our application and explaining a little bit about the project, I'd actually ask Laura to give you guys a brief overview on 7 Brew in case you are not familiar with it.
Good evening. Your name and address for the records, please.
Laura Pacino, 1109 Medley Drive in Hobart, Indiana. I work for Hubrew LLC. We are the 2nd largest franchisee under 7 Brew. Our territory is Chicago, Northwest Indiana, Pittsburgh, and Nashville. 7 Brew is a double drive-through only concept, no indoor dining. We have our employees go around on iPads, take your order, and then when you come around to the side of the building, similar to Chick-fil-A and Portillo's, there are double glass sliding doors where somebody comes out and physically hands you your drink. Under Hubrew, we currently just opened up our 30th stand as of yesterday. In the Indiana area, we are open in Dyer, Crown Point, and Valparaiso. We are under construction in Maryville to open in April. Under entitlements in Portage, Hobart, LaPorte, and Michigan City. That's just kind of a little blurb about 7 Brew. If anybody has any more questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you, Laura. To kind of continue moving forward. So with this being a restaurant with drive-through in B2 zoning, we are required to get a special exception use, which is why we are here before the board tonight. If you're not familiar, this is 4359 Franklin Street. This is the site of the KFC that has been closed for a little while now. So obviously we have a consistent use with what was there before. I'd also just like to point out, as far as there's numerous other QSR fast food locations sprinkled along Franklin Street with drive-throughs in B2 zoning. So this is a very consistent use with many other adjacent businesses. Our project will include about a 770 square foot building with an attached cooler. The drive-through traffic, as you'll see on our site plan, the circulation will be the same as the KFC. So we only have one driveway, which comes in the rear. There's no driveway existing or proposed to Franklin Street. So we will continue to use the existing driveway. That'll have to be slightly shifted a little bit. But the whole circulation, if you'd ever been to KFC before, will remain the same. I guess one thing I want to stress is that we are very much ready to go on this project with your guys' approval. We have been working on the engineering and architectural side to make sure we can hit the ground running. So with that, we are asking for your approval tonight on this special use. I'm not going to get into all the specifics on the application. I know that's been a long meeting, but I feel like our application stands for itself. So I'm happy to answer any questions. Would you also like me to go over the development variance at this time or wait?
We'll have two votes.
Yeah, we'll have two votes. Why don't we do this separately? And I apologize.
Yeah, no, that's totally fine. That's pretty normal. Yep, happy to answer any questions after staff report and then move to the next one. Yes, so I should have clarified that the KFC will be demolished. So this will be a new building. We'll be reconstructing the parking lot, reconfiguring the drainage a little bit. Drainage will still go to the same place it does, which drains through Lake Park Plaza in the rear to their detention pond. As part of us trying to move quickly, we've worked with Dr. Edwards and the city. We've actually gone through development review already for this site and spoken to all the department heads just to make sure we're going down the right path. So yeah, does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you very much.
All right, thanks.
All right, Dr. Edwards, if you could get into your planning department report, please.
Will staff provide the, I'm sorry, it's been a long night. Lucas, thank you. I'm sorry, let me do that right. Will staff present the report for the special exception use and the development standard variance for Hubru?
So I'll start with the department comments. So the water department mentioned that the use of the property as requested does not concern the department since we have adequate infrastructure and capacity to support the business. The department does hold a 10-foot wide easement across the whole eastern edge of the property adjacent to Franklin. And the easement does put restrictions on the location of structures and signage within the easement, but pavement over said easement, however, is not an issue. We also received feedback from the police department. They said they have no issue with this business. The engineering department mentioned that they have requested that the petitioner provide a 5-foot wide sidewalk within the site along Franklin. And the planning department have analyzed the petition and compiled a report for the requested special exception use. So starting with general welfare, the proposal will not be injurious to the public health, safety, and general welfare of the community. The proposal is permissible under special use within the zoning district, which is applicable to the property. B2 zoning, which is general commercial, is intended for a variety of commercial uses, and numerous other small businesses are in the surrounding area as well. For surrounding property, the special exception use will not be injurious to the use and enjoyment of other property in the immediate vicinity for the purpose already permitted, nor substantially diminish or impair property values within the neighborhood. The special exception use will not be injurious to the use and enjoyment of other property in the immediate vicinity. The proposed development will increase property values within the neighborhood by adding to the numerous businesses within the 421 commercial corridor. For hazards, the special exception shall not be hazardous to adjacent property or involve uses, activities, materials, or equipment which will be detrimental to the health, safety, and welfare of persons or property through the excessive production of traffic noise, smoke, odor, fumes, or glare. And this proposed development will not produce an excessive amount of traffic, smoke, odor, fumes, or glare, and will not involve any use which may be hazardous to adjacent properties. For public facilities and services, the use will be served adequately by essential public facilities and services such as highway, streets, police and fire protection, drainage structures, water, sewage facilities, refuse disposal in schools. The city departments have given feedback regarding public facilities and services for the proposed development. And the water department has mentioned that they hold the 10-foot easement that I mentioned earlier. For development requirements, the development of the property will be consistent with the intent of the development requirements established by this ordinance for similar uses. The development will be designed, constructed, operated, and maintained to be compatible with and not significantly alter the existing or intended character of the general vicinity. And development requirements were communicated to the petitioner prior to the submission of their requested variances, and the petitioner has incorporated all applicable development requirements into the submitted site plan for the proposed commercial development. For ordinance intent, granting the special exception use will not be contrary to the general purpose served by this ordinance and will not permanently injure other property or uses in the same zoning district and vicinity. And they will not be contrary to the general purpose served by this ordinance. For comprehensive plan, the proposed use will be consistent with the character of the zoning district in which it is located and the provisions of the Michigan City Comprehensive Plan. B2 zoning is intended to serve general commercial uses and clusters of commercial services which generate large volumes of vehicular traffic. This proposed development is complementary with intent of the 421 corridor plan as well. For use regulations, which are found in section 1406B for restaurants with drive-through services, we found that they meet all of the requirements except for requirement number 1, which is actually met because they are part of the Lake Park Plaza, so public visibility is limited as far as practical. And for the recommendation, the planning staff has reviewed the proposed construction of 4359 Franklin Street, Michigan City, Indiana, and recommends approval of the petition requesting a special exception use.
Thank you. Mr. Hale, can we get into your report, please?
Yes, sir. My petition for petition number B, my report for petition number B-103-26. Petitioner applicant is Hubru LLC. The property owner is EYM Realty of Indiana LLC. The request is for a special exception use. Later, we'll talk about a second request for a property located at 4359 Franklin Street here in Michigan City. I've included a long list of materials submitted by the petitioner, A through Z, which is rather extensive and covers their request in some detail. So the record would include these documentations as well as the planning department report, this report, and the presentation of the petitioner. You're familiar now with requesting a special exception use and the standards that must be met as set out in section 24.05 of our zoning ordinance and as read and the proposed findings by Lucas. And so I won't go over those. I would just indicate to you that, again, you may approve if you make consistent findings with the requirements of section 24.05, there being no use requirements under 1405. Or you can approve the request with findings consistent with 2405, but subject to certain conditions, or you may deny the request, or you may continue this matter to a subsequent hearing. So again, you need to consider approval. There are no special conditions, but there are findings that should be included in any motion.
Thank you, Mr. Hale. Board members, do we have any comments? Any comments?
Yes. Will, I'm wondering if they will have any walk-up service.
Yeah, so we do not advertise walk-up service, but if somebody does come for walk-up service, we will direct them to the non-driveway service side where they can place their order and then get their beverage.
Thank you. Any other comments? Any other comments, questions? All right. Public comment.
Yes, Tommy Klovic, 1316 Ohio Street. And I saw this was on the agenda. I posted on social media that the Seven Brew is going to be going to the old KFC stop on South Franklin. And everybody was like, "Oh, that's great! Now I don't have to go to Valpo anymore to get my Seven Brew." Now they just did this over, but they took over the KFC over there and put one in. So I think this just be really quick for them to do. This was the other people said, "Well, we need another coffee shop." Well, same thing. We got multiple gas stations, multiple hotels, multiple car washes, multiple chicken places. It's another car wash. We have 3 McDonald's locations, so well, I hope they do nothing but profit and thrive. I'm sure they're going to do really good there. I'm glad to see that White Elephant, another vacant structure, is going to be gone off of South Franklin. Keep up the good work, folks.
Public comment. Public comment. Public comment is now closed. Board members, does anyone have a motion or any other comments? Discussion?
I have a question. I'm looking at the address of 4359 Franklin, and the other petition that we looked at was for Crew, and it's at 4353.
They're next door. They're going to be neighbors.
I was like,
maybe.
Well, I just question the cars and the safety of the, well, I don't know. Maybe it's just me. No, it's not an issue. Okay.
If I may, I was just going to add that they would not be direct neighbors to us. There's a mixed-use commercial building in between us, but it is in the same vicinity north of us.
I can't picture it, so I'll have to drive up there and look.
Yeah.
Board members, is there a motion?
Yes, I make a motion that we approve petition B-103-26 with the information from the planning department concerning proposed findings and recommendations. And wish them well. Thank you.
Is there a second?
I second the motion.
Mr. Gross made the second. So I have a motion by Mr. Quinder, a second by Mr. Gross. Dr. Edwards, if you would call the roll, please.
Ricky Jackson,
Yes.
Fred Klinder,
Yes.
Kathy Stransky,
Yes.
Carol Spreitzer,
Yes.
and Brian Gross.
Yes.
The motion passes. With the Who Brew, we are going into the second thing. Is there anything you'd like to add for the development standard variance?
Yes, please. Thank you. So we kind of combed through our design and what Seven Brew typically builds and does very closely. And all of our signage looks good with the exception of one thing that we filed for this variance, and that is the proposed sign on the south facade. I believe it's Appendix C, Article 19, Section 19.04. There is a requirement that the signage not be more than 10% of the square footage of that facade. Our proposed sign, which is our standard in stock sign, would take us to 13%, so slightly above. And the major difficulty for this is Seven Brew has a standard building. There is no variation from that building. And the width of that front facade is only about 12 feet. And the height, I want to say, is 18 or 19 feet. So it's a very narrow facade. So the sign itself is still well under what we could have for total square footage. It's just because the building facade itself is so small that we're slightly over that 10%. So that's why we're requesting variance on that one.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Edwards, would you like to get into your report?
Yes, will staff present the report on the development standard variance for petition number B-103-26, please?
So the planning department have analyzed the petition and compiled a report for the requested development standard variance in a B2 parcel. Standard number 1, the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. City code under section 1904 lists specific sign requirements, including maximum size, which is kept at 100 square feet and 10% of the wall area, whichever is less. The proposed 7 Brew sign on the south facade of the proposed building is 36 square feet, which would cover 13% of the wall area. This is the standard size on all 7 Brew locations. The signage faces across the road at the Chase Bank and will not be detrimental, distracting, or injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. Clear identification of the business will keep customers from driving past the facility and having to do a U-turn in the adjacent parking lot where there will be additional traffic and more potential for an incident. Standard number 2, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. The use and the value of the area to the property will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. The minor requested increase in allowable signage percentage on the south facade will not affect the use and value of the area adjacent to the property in a substantially adverse manner. 7 Brew is one of the fastest growing drive-through coffee shops in the country and is very popular, and the business will be a benefit to the surrounding community and properties and will only increase adjacent commercial property values. Standard number 3, the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property. Practical difficulties shall result from exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions applying to the property that did not apply generally to other properties in the same zoning district. And the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property. The sign is consistent with the standard design used at all 7 Brew coffee locations. While the proposed wall area of the 36 feet is well below the required maximum of 100 feet, the sign will cover 10% of the wall, which is above the permitted 10%. It is not an overly large sign, and the building is relatively small. This is a common variance that 7 Brew has to secure in many communities. And for our department recommendations, the planning department recommends approval of the requested development standard variance to allow the petitioner to exceed the maximum permitted wall sign coverage.
Thank you. Attorney Hale, have you got part 2?
Yes, sir. I should note that is both matters, the first one and this one. I've had an opportunity to review the notice documentation which was supplied by the petitioner and find it adequate, so you're free to consider both requests. And I would note again that this is slightly different. This is a development standard variance that relates to signage and just the development standards relating to the size of signs that are approved, in this case, on the surface of the building itself. And you have the ability to find under those development standards that were read to you, or you may grant the request, grant it with conditions, but you must include any conditions in the motion, or you may deny the request or table to a future meeting. I would note that there are no conditions that were recommended by the department, but you could impose your own if you so desire.
Very good, thank you. Board members, is there any comments, questions?
Yeah, I have one quick question on the papers that were given to us. I'm trying to find the south sign, which one it is.
Yes. So color one, I can see. That's. That's the thing. That's the wrong. Yeah. Yeah. But it's that side facing that way. That's very hard to sense. Like it's facing south when you that's short space bay.
Yeah, right. Yeah, just was looking
It's that one right there.
that one. Okay, very good. Thank you very much.
Is there any other questions, concerns? Board members, any other questions? Moving into public comment. Public comment. Public comment. Public comment is now closed. Board members, is there a motion?
I move to approve a developmental standard variation or variance B103-26 to include the staff report.
And adopting the standards in it?
Yes, and adopting the standards.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Gross. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
I have a second by Mr. Klinder. Miss Edwards, if you could do the roll, please.
Ricky Jackson,
Yes.
Fred Klinder,
Yes.
Kathy Stransky,
Yes.
Carol Spitzer,
Yes.
and Brian Gross.
Yes.
Congratulations. You were here all night, but I think it was worth it. Thank you.
Thank you, board and staff. Really appreciate it.
Next on our agenda, we have the finding of facts. Miss Edwards, or Mr. Hale, if you would, please.
Yes, you have before you a written Michigan City Board of Zoning Appeals decision and findings of fact. It relates to petition number B-100-26. The petitioner and applicant was Robert Werner. The property owner was Michael S. Ferguson. The request was a use variance for a property known as 117 Willard Avenue, Michigan City, Indiana. You will recall that on February 10th, 2026, this body held a public hearing on this request, and you considered his request for a use variance for the construction and operation of a neighborhood scale drive-through coffee shop. You've made certain findings consistent with the requirements of a use variance. Those findings are before you in paragraphs A, B, C, D, and E. And you made approval of the petition for use variance conditioned upon the following conditions. A, provide enough space along drive-through lane to have a safe route for customers who choose not to purchase. B, a screening wall along the south property line must be constructed prior to opening for business. C, designated ADA parking space prior to opening for business. And D, checkered crosswalk from the sidewalk on Willard Ave to the designated seating area prior to opening for business. And based upon the petition, the presentation of the petitioner, all documents, testimony, remonstrances, and other matters brought forth in the public hearing, and all materials, documents, and testimony set out in the record of this matter, and subject to the conditions that I just read to you, the Michigan City Board of Zoning Appeals made the findings set out above and granted petition number B-100-26 on February 10th, 2026. And you are certifying that as of this 10th day of March 2026. And if you would sign the decision and findings that I'll pass around.
Very good. Board members, is there a motion to adopt the finding of facts?
Make a motion that we adopt the findings and facts and the planning department report, Mr. Kearney's, Mr. Attorney Hale's report, including all the conditions concerning this petition. B-100-26.
Is there a second? I have a second by Kathy Stransky. Dr. Edwards, if you would, please.
Ricky Jackson,
Yes.
Craig Klinder,
Yes.
Kathy Stransky,
Yes.
Carol Spreitzer,
Yes.
and Brian Gross.
Yes.
Next on the agenda, we get into old business. Dr. Edwards, do you have any old business for us?
Sir, we have neither old business or new business to discuss.
Fantastic. Public comment. Last of the night, public comment.
Yes, Tommy Kolovic, 1316 Ohio Street. I hope you'd call for a special meeting for the Crew Car Wash folks so we can get this finalized and, probably get all this property closed, get all the property tax paid, and they can start on their construction. Thank you.
If there's nothing else, we'll feel we're adjourned.